If we forget the books we read in the future, do you think that reading a book is a waste of time? Do we read books for nothing? Actually, this question should be looked at as follows. Do we need to remember everything we read? Our brain has the feature of forgetting, and fortunately, it has such a feature. Think about what would have happened if we hadn't forgotten all these events. It would be terrible, yeah? I liken this situation to the sound range that the human ear can hear. If we could hear sounds below 20 Hz, we would probably go crazy. The theme of the book is similar. You are eating a fruit by reading a book. And this fruit contains both vitamins and pulp. We don't want this pulp to be remembered anyway. Of course, reading books is one of the most important means of information, but the primary purpose of reading books is not to hoard information. If it were, it would be enough just to read Wikipedia or read chains of tweets on Twitter if you live in a reading universe like English. Unlike shallow and simple reading, reading a book offers a deep and different perspective on a person, a subject, an event, or a story, temporally, spatially, intellectually, and spiritually. It creates awareness of the fact that every subject, person, place, story, event has nuances. This in the first place evolves us from being a cynical, irreconcilable, and angular character who is essentially an adolescent disease, who cuts off with cursory approaches, rote patterns, and labels, and tries to understand everything, instead of being a cynical, irreconcilable, and angular character. According to Steven Pinker, the reading is angle technology. When someone else's thoughts enter our brains, we gain the opportunity to look at the world from that person's perspective. As when watching a movie, we are not content with observing the character from the outside. We become him by entering his mental world until the end of the book. As we experience looking at the things from the perspective of different people, we cease to be a person who only looks at everything from one narrow point of view. Knowledge is also a form of energy, and it doesn't exist of nothing. It just changes form. The knowledge transferred by reading a book undergoes a chemical change in the body. These lead to formations such as personality, mastery, wisdom, intellect. So you don't actually forget the book, you even turn into the book itself. Bill Gates says you shouldn't read a book word for word. Almost all books have filler words to support the main idea. These words are the helpers that lead us to the goal. We don't need to remember them later. One thinks that he reads books for their content. But books are a key to get into oneself. That's why you don't remember the content of those keys years later. Because if you opened the door and you didn't close the door again, which is very difficult, you don't need the same key. In fact, you forget even when you read the book. While reading a page, you even forget the sentences you read 30 seconds ago. Because the brain works not on memorization, but on general meaning extraction. As we gain a new perspective when we read a book, new synaptic connections are formed between our neurons. Our mind rock, which consists of neuron loops, constantly acquires new patterns. New abilities are built on our brains, such as learning a new language or playing an instrument. When the book is finished, we gain a new experience and we benefit from this experience when appropriate. Of course, it's not the same for everyone. Do you remember that I ate meat on this date? Its protein was this, its calorie was this, etc.? No, because you ate, yeasted and your body fed from it. Your cells took advantage of it. Synthesized amino acids through a number of biological processes and became stronger. The books we read are transformed and revealed in our experience. In other words, dozens of stories, characters, and their states will one day become visible in our words, reactions, and all other attitudes, consciously or unconsciously. Let me tell you about this subject through the date story of Mark Twain. May you have heard. I once said to my teacher, I read a book, but there is nothing left in my mind from the book. He handed me a fruit and said, chew this in your mouth and eat it. After he ate, he asked, "Are you grown now?" I said no. He said, "You have not grown, but that date has spread throughout your body. It became flesh, bone, nerve, skin, nails, cell." I realized that the book I read is also scattered like that. Some of it enriches his vocabulary. Some of them increase your knowledge and wisdom. Some of them beautify your morals. Some of them refine your style in writing and speaking. Some of them make you look at life differently. Some of them increase the love, compassion in you. Some of them increase your self-confidence. It triggers you to think and questions, teaches you how to act in the face of events, even though you are not aware of these. Reading books is useless because reading books helps a lot. It is useful for so many things that it is impossible to say what it's for. Good friends, good books, and a peaceful conscience. Here is the ideal life. In other words, forgetting the contents of book doesn't mean that you didn't understand the book, that you didn't learn anything from that book, or that the book didn't contribute anything to you. The person on the first page of the book and the person on the last page can never be the same. Reading is not natural activity for humans like seeing and listening. Unlike seeing and listening, we can only learn to read. This is one of the reasons why reading activates different parts of our brain than those that are activated by sight or listening. They are all still there. You are the summary of all that you have read. In addition, if you want to remember more things despite everything, you can share comments and reviews on book sharing sites. You can underline them and then return to those sections, or you can take notes in a notebook. Also, I don't practice it much, but you can read the books again that you are very impressed with, at least some parts of it. Let me end the video with famous saying in medical school: forgetting is physiological, trying and not repeating is pathological.